Have you ever been excited to learn about the history of mummies? And why did Inca civilization place so much importance on the afterlife? In this video, we'll go through some scary facts about Inca mummies, because of which innocent children had to suffer for 12 months while waiting for their death. 3 Inca mummies that were discovered in Argentina close to the high top of Volcan Llullaillaco were so beautifully preserved that they gave a human face to the ancient rite of Capacocha that ended with their sacrifice. Now that the 13-year-old Llullaillaco Maiden and her younger companions, Llullaillaco Boy and Lightning Girl, have been discovered, it is clear that drugs that caused mental uncertainty were used both in their deaths as well as in the year-long series of rituals that prepared them for their final moments. The maiden's hair provided information on her food and drink intake over the last year of her life. This information seems to support historical descriptions of a few chosen children participating in a year of sacred ceremonies that would finally result in their sacrifice and leave marks in their hair from changes in food, coca, and alcohol consumption. The experts point out that coca and alcohol may cause altered states linked with this sacred in Inca religious thought. Probably, the drugs also served a more practical purpose, confusing and sedating the young victims on the high mountainside to help them accept their sad destinies. The maiden and her young companions, discovered in 1999, are in a remarkable state of natural preservation due to the extremely cold temperatures right below the mountain's 22,110 foot, or 6,739 meter summit. It is this extraordinary level of preservation that allowed for the kinds of technical analysis which, when combined with the flawless condition of the objects and textiles arranged in the tomb-like structure, allowed experts to recreate the events that occurred in this tenuous atmosphere about 500 years ago. The maiden's long, braided hair contains a timeline of markers that record her diet, including the consumption of drugs like coca and alcohol in the form of chicha, a fermented brew derived from maize. The marker suggests she might have been chosen for sacrifice a year before her actual death. Her life drastically changed during this time, as did her increasing consumption of alcohol and coca, which were then illegal drugs, not intended for daily use. These facts support the idea that, up until that time, she might have been living a typical or even peasant lifestyle, but that a year before her passing, she was taken out of that lifestyle and thrown into a different one. The drugs might have left the maiden more submissive, stupefied, or perhaps unconscious on the day of her demise. That idea seems to be supported by her unmoved surroundings, including the objects around her and the feathered headdress she wore as she passed away, and her calm, seated position inside the tomb-like structure. At the time of the mummy's discovery in 1999, chewed coca leaves were discovered in her mouth. The system of control that led these kids to an isolated mountainside at a high altitude has all the signs of top-level official support. There are objects and outfits that are sophisticated and elite in nature, coming from basically the 4 corners of the Inca Empire. These artifacts include spondylus shell figures that were transported from the coast and feathered headdresses that were carried from the Amazon basin. The mummies are currently held in Salta, Argentina's Museo de Arqueología de Alta Montana, or MAAM. It's fascinating to think about how much their physical remains might be able to prove historical and archaeological claims. But it's also unsettling that the kids are still so recognizably human even after they died. It almost feels to me like the kids can reach out and tell us their own stories. Even after 5 centuries, especially hair can still present some strong evidence and tell us a very personal tale.